Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second day of the YUFE Town Hall meeting. It's good to have you with us again. Yesterday we discussed some of YUFE's achievements in the first year, and we looked back on what really makes a successful European University Alliance. Key elements were being a university of people, and utilizing diversity and the strength of each individual and each institution. I would like to inform you that all recordings are online and you can re-watch the stream from yesterday at your time of convenience. Today we continue for the second day of the YUFE Town Hall meeting by delving into the topic, what can European universities do for you? We are very pleased to have three very inspiring speakers from a diverse range of backgrounds with us today to walk us through this question. After these three speeches, we'll continue with a plenary discussion with several panelists, which I will introduce later. I also want to remind you to, when interacting about the stream today, about the session today, to keep on using the YUFE Town Hall hashtag, which is again also shared in the comment section of the stream. YUFE's success and the importance for YUFE to work together with key stakeholders such as the European Commission, national ministries of education, regional companies and international companies, and local citizens and institutions is one of the key formulas of the YUFE ecosystem. I would now like to introduce the first speaker of today, who will speak to us from a European perspective. It is Ms. Maria Gabriel, the Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth. So please, we can listen to the presentation right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to be with you at the YUFE Town Hall. Tomorrow, it is exactly 29 years since the European Head of State and Governments gathered in Maastricht for a summit that will be remembered in history. The Maastricht Treaty sowed the seeds for an even closer community, leading to the European Union as we know it today. It paved the way for closer and deeper cooperation between Europeans. And this is exactly what European universities like YUFE do today, and what the higher education community has been doing so well for so long. By working together, you contribute to Europe's prosperity and help to uphold European values, starting with the values that underpin your work, institutional autonomy and academic freedom. So how can we support the higher education community so that it plays its role at best? What do universities need to thrive in our fast-changing world? The global higher education landscape is also evolving fast, with an impact on how, what, when, and where people are learning. We must consider all this, especially as we are building the European education area. Let me share with you some of my thoughts on the future of higher education, the role of European universities, and the key elements that will allow us to achieve our objectives. First, create connections and be inclusive. Higher education should use the potential that lies in its diversity. Small, medium or large universities, lesser known or well known, each has a strength to share, not only with other higher education institutions, but also through cooperation with non-academic partners. This will lead to the development of interconnected knowledge ecosystems across Europe. Globalization is also key. Universities need to respond to both local and global needs, and they need to be inclusive. Inclusion and excellence are mutually reinforcing elements of a well-functioning higher education and research landscape. Inclusion means that we need to open higher education institutions to a more diverse student, teaching and research body, and strengthen their role in lifelong learning. In the current context of crisis and recovery, it is so important to prevent further inequalities from deepening and potential talent from being lost. European universities are leading by example on both connectivity and inclusion. We now have over 280 higher education institutions from all different parts of Europe working closely together in the 41 European University Alliances selected under Erasmus+ and supported by Horizon 2020. I now turn to my second point on the future of higher education. Universities are key to equip students and learners with the skills they need, both for their employability and for becoming active citizens. European citizens need high-level competencies for their personal, civic, and professional development. Every education institution should be committed to providing these competencies, including universities. At the same time, all graduates should be aware that in such a rapidly changing world, acquired knowledge is soon out of date. Lifelong learning should become the standard, and learning to learn is key in this respect. I can assure you that we are working hard to put the right system in place. I work on a European approach to micro-credentials. The aim is to provide more flexible and modular learning opportunities to all, at all stages of their career. Lifelong learning will help meet an increased demand for upskilling and reskilling that results from the pandemic. It will also complement the curriculum for students at bachelor, master, and doctoral levels, in particular to develop transferable skills. Third, universities need to be ready to accelerate higher education transformation, building on the lessons learned from the COVID-19 pandemic. European universities are paving the way and can act as test beds for this transformation. Let's take the YUFE European Universities Alliance, which already now aims to transform European higher education by becoming the leading model of a student-centered, open, and inclusive European university. My intention is to work with the wide higher education and research communities and member states to co-create incentives for a transformation of higher education institutions in Europe. For this purpose, we'll launch an online public consultation complemented with targeted consultation events. This will allow for the co-creation of a transformation agenda for higher education by the end of 2021. We rely on input from the educational community, including youth, businesses, society, or individuals. In conclusion, we all need to adapt to the world after COVID and train future generations to co-create knowledge across borders, disciplines, and cultures for a resilient, inclusive, and sustainable society. I welcome your commitment, your analysis, and your vision of how higher education can and should be. I'm confident that by working together, we can transform higher education for a greener, healthier, more digital, and resilient Europe.
We thank the European Commissioner Gabriel for taking the time to speak to us at this town hall event. And some key points from her speech include the importance of fighting inequalities and to really foster all talents we have in Europe. To also allow citizens to become active and contribute, and to also participate in lifelong learning, to skill and reskill in line with the needs of society. We're also very happy to hear the announcement here by the Commissioner regarding the public consultation on the transformation agenda for higher education in Europe, planned for the end of 2021. Today we discuss from all angles in the Quadruple-Helix model. This means the government perspective, the business, universities, and societies. It is therefore my pleasure to also introduce our next speaker, coming from the Ministry of Higher Education and Science in Finland, speaking to us about some of the Finnish ambitions and the Finnish plans for European universities. Mr. Ate Jaskelainen is the Director General of the Department for Higher Education and Science Policy of the Ministry of Education and Culture of Finland. The floor is yours.
Dear friends, it's a great pleasure for me to share with you some thoughts on European universities from a Finnish perspective. First, let me use a few words to explain the Finnish education system, which has received quite a lot of attention in the recent years. It's based on some key building blocks or fundamentals, and they are, first of all, that we provide equal opportunities for everyone, and those opportunities are created through high-quality education, which is free of charge. A turning point of this system was creation of the comprehensive school system in the 1970s. Another key is a high level of autonomy. We give education also in minority languages. And finally, perhaps the most important success factor, we have highly educated teachers on all levels. With the background of this in this country, I'm also proud to say that European universities are a priority for Finland. The strengthening of higher education and research in Europe is very important for the Finnish government. This is strongly visible in the present government's plan, which is a guiding document for our five-party coalition government. Finland has 11 Finnish universities and universities of applied sciences participating in these selected networks. We are delighted with this result. Finland has found it essential that the pilots are open for diverse profiles for universities. Why do we consider this European Universities Initiative as important? Well, first, Europe needs bold pioneers to strengthen the quality of higher education. Second, high-quality higher education is vital for Europe's competitiveness, growth, and well-being. By joining forces and pooling knowledge and resources together, the European universities can be greater than the simple sum of its parts. They have the potential to boost the change, to transform our current practices and actions, and act as so-called game changers. This is very much welcomed. Funding the European universities' actions is mainly coming from Erasmus program, but also Horizon 2020 program. This sets our expectations towards the activities and outcomes, and they are set at high level. A new higher education landscape that the European universities are driving for doesn't recognize geographical borders and is in line with current developments in society and the labor market. How does this imaginary landscape interact with traditional, regional, national, and European levels? First, let's look at the issue at the regional level. The universities are often seen as the main engine for regional development, innovation, and growth. Joint learning offer, shared infrastructures, increased mobility, and enhanced research collaboration can undoubtedly have a massive impact on regional development. The regional contexts about how the demographic trends influence universities, their economic realities and location may vary. Navigation between strategic goals of the European universities and regional needs can sometimes be challenging. The societal engagement is at the very heart of many European universities, with increased cooperation with citizens, businesses, and governments. The cooperation can act as a basis for new ideas, innovations, and dynamic transformations, like new innovative models for re- and upskilling, more excellent learning offer using also digital approaches, circulation of knowledge and talent, new business opportunities, and greater social inclusion. If we turn our focus on national level, we see a broader landscape. On national level, European universities advance the modernization of higher education. Openness, inclusiveness, and learner-centered education are part of the vision of the young universities for Europe, but also very much part of the vision for higher education and research 2030 in Finland. The aims of this Finnish vision guiding our policies are, first, to increase the human capital of the entire population And the aim is that at least 50% of young adults aged 25 to 34 obtain a higher education degree in 2030. Second, to increase opportunities for continuous learning by building flexible and individual study paths. And this is enabled by using digitalization and an open operating culture. Third, to increase investments to finish in research and development. The government has set the goal of increasing Finland's expenditure to GDP ratio for research and development from the current 2.7% to 4% by 2030. In practice, this means 50% increase. Let me dig a little bit deeper into these targets and the measures how to reach them. Based on this vision, all Finnish higher education institutions have committed to a unique project called Digital Vision 2030, which aims to make Finland as a model country for flexible learning. Learners are provided with data on their learning securely. This enables and supports their learning throughout their lives. The Ministry of Education and Culture will support these efforts by providing 20 million special subsidy and another 4.4 million euros per year during the next agreement period of 4 years. So the funding in total is close to 40 million euros, a major sum in Finnish terms. We also have made a roadmap for research and innovation that aims to increase interaction in several important areas, especially creating new partnership models for universities with industries. And this initiative aims to make Finland the most attractive and competent environment for experimentation and innovation in the world, producing sustainable solutions to societal challenges. Our ministry is currently working also with the internationalization program of universities and universities of applied sciences for the next 4-year period. And based on this program, there will be annual funding for 40 million euros for universities for global actions and actions to support efforts of Finland becoming an internationally attractive place to study, research and work. And this program is called Talent Boost. There is also an accessibility plan for higher education to support more inclusive and equal higher education currently being prepared. The program will examine accessibility in higher education from the perspectives of the family's socio-economic status, regions, gender, immigrant background, ethnic groups, language groups, and people with disabilities. The cooperation between universities, but also with other education sectors, is crucial to support the creation of personalized learner paths. Finland is currently undergoing a parliamentary reform on continuous learning that aims to respond to people's lifelong need for upskilling and reskilling. The main focus of the reform is on working people, but constant learning is seen in general in the bigger picture, starting from early childhood education. These are just a few examples from Finland. Others surely have similar models in their own countries. The participating universities of the European Universities Initiative don't operate in isolation from their national structures and fellow institutions. So far, at the national level, we haven't yet identified need for any major obstacles for this ambitious cooperation. Should these arise, we are, of course, ready to act. From international perspective, Europe is at a crossroads. We have several challenges: the aging demography, security threats, COVID crisis, Asia's impressive economic rise, Brexit, digital transformation, and climate change, as well as other complex issues, are all reshaping and reconstructing the world as we know it. Europe and European universities have to pave their way to promote themselves in the global stage. In China, we have a strong role of the state. In the US, we have private universities and business orientation. In Europe, we have a third way characterized by European values, academic freedom, institutional autonomy, and strong cooperation between public and private actors, and between member states, between universities from different member states, and between larger stakeholder community. This European third way is a strength in the global competition and one of the key reasons behind European Universities Initiative. The different developments at various levels can sometimes be complicated and create uncertainty for cooperation, but they can also turn into mutually reinforcing relationships. Cooperation should be seen as opportunity for transformation, not as an obstacle. The European universities, with its 280 participating universities, are often promoted as the drivers for higher education transformation in European education area. It's important to make sure that their actions and best practices are available and open for other higher education institutions in Europe, right from the early on. Finally, let me say that partnerships make individual universities stronger in participating to the various funding calls and international activities beyond Europe. Together, we are stronger.
Thank you, Mr. Jääskeläinen, for sharing the Finnish perspective on the European University Initiative and several of your initiatives at the local and national level. Your higher education system is exemplary to many of us. Well-trained staff, accessible tuition fees, and as you mentioned, also an increase in the investment in R&D. You also mentioned that the European University Initiative is a priority for the Finnish government, and that by pooling resources and knowledge together at the European level, we can achieve more impact than by mere simple parts. You also mentioned and stressed that European universities are not developed and initiated in isolation, but they are well embedded and need to be well embedded in the national context, together with national and other institutions. It is therefore my pleasure to introduce our next speaker for today, which is Dr. Astrid Boeyen, the CEO of the Brightlands Smart Services Campus, here in Heerlen in Limburg. The Brightlands Smart Services Campus is one of the 4 innovation campi in the Limburg region, where entrepreneurs, students, researchers work together to come up with new and innovative practices. Astrid Boeyen, the floor is yours to speak to us, and thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you for your kind invitation and congratulations with your anniversary. I'm very happy to be able to speak here today on the topic of Europe's young universities and Triple-Helix innovation. My name is Astrid Boeyen and I'm CEO of the Brightlands Smart Services Campus in Heerlen in the south of the Netherlands. We are a Triple-Helix innovation site in which universities, companies and also governments collaborate to stimulate innovation in the field of data science and AI. And I've been asked to give a presentation on this topic because my own career has evolved and revolved around the Triple-Helix. I used to work as a just graduated PhD for Maastricht University. I've worked there for 15 years. And then I transferred to Statistics Netherlands, where I was Director of Data Services, Research and Innovation. And after that, I went to the company that is the Triple-Helix innovation site of Brightlands in Heerlen. So I've seen all aspects of the Triple-Helix, and this gives me the background, I think, to be able to give you some pointers and tips and advice on working in the Triple-Helix. The Triple-Helix is a form of collaboration between companies, governments and knowledge institutions. And in the past few years, this has become increasingly important in stimulating national economies. And what we see is that governments have started promoting Triple-Helix innovation and ecosystems as a motor behind economies, but also as a motor behind solving societal questions. So Triple-Helix has become ever more important, and I'm very glad to see that also the young universities take steps in order to take roles in this phenomenon, which will be, I think, also in the upcoming years where the restructuring of the economy as a result of Corona will be ever more important. Well, what is the Brightlands Smart Services Campus in Heerlen then? We have been founded in 2016 by 3 founding fathers. That's Maastricht University, the province of Limburg, and APG, which is a Dutch pension provider. So even within the stockholders and the shareholders, the Triple-Helix is represented. We have several goals, the most important of which is stimulating the regional economy by stimulating innovation and also attracting talent to our region. And our mission is to connect digital top talents to develop smart solutions in order to improve quality of life. And we work in all kinds of fields, and in my next several slides, I'll go into more detail about that. Well, going into slightly more detail, at Brightlands Smart Services Campus, we work on tomorrow's smart services, and that is everything that we do relates to data science, AI, and data-driven working, in collaboration, of course, again, between companies, governments, and knowledge institutions. We have, of course, expertise in the field of data science and AI, but also expertise in the field of legal, privacy, ethical, and human technology interactions, which are, of course, also very important aspects in the field of working with data science and AI, because if you don't have expertise in those fields, then you start working only on tech-driven solutions which have a low societal acceptance. So we are very happy that we cover the complete field, ranging from technical to societal. Currently, even in those 4 years that we only exist, we have built a quite mature ecosystem in which more than 30 companies and other organizations are present on site, but we also have a network of over 80 companies. We have 900 jobs and more than 12,500 visitors per year. So we are quite proud of where we stand right now, and we are at a beautiful position in order to collaborate both nationally and in Europe in order to further expand our area of expertise and also to contribute further to society. In the place in the Netherlands where we are positioned, in the south of the Netherlands, we are ideally positioned to collaborate cross-border. For example, we work together with the Corda campus in Hasselt and also with the University of Aachen. And for example, also with the Bundesagentur of North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany to tackle different questions ranging from cross-border employability to supporting and schooling employees that have difficulties in finding jobs in the jobs that they are currently in. So that makes us quite special, I think, at least in the Dutch context. And I think that these cross-border collaborations are also a really important aspect of Triple-Helix innovation. So we are quite happy to be able to do that. Well, how did we become a hotspot for digital innovation? I think as all Triple-Helix innovation campuses, a successful campus consists of three elements. First of all, it's the supply of content. Of course, that's one of the very utmost important aspects, that the content is interesting and attracts companies and also other organizations to your campus. But that's not the only thing that you need. In addition, you need to create a flourishing ecosystem. So it's not enough to position companies and other organizations at a campus. You have to actively promote collaboration between those organizations, for example, by organizing events or by bringing them into direct contact with each other. Moreover, of course, what you need are facilities, office facilities, event facilities, because that's what attracts people to your campus, and that's where the buzz, so to speak, of your campus really starts. And just to give you an impression, at our campus we have events and meeting rooms for over 2,000 people. We have flex solutions, and where startups can just hire one share, for example, but still can use the environment of our ecosystem. We have business premises, where companies can hire small offices, but even hire offices up to 3,000 square meters. And we have lab facilities. Those lab facilities are really important for the structure of a campus because they are a shared facility which companies can use without founding their own lab. So we, for example, have a data visualization lab. We have a nano lab with Accenture. We have a lab for SMEs. We have also a lab in which we work together with the police, in which the police does their on-site innovations in collaboration with many of the parties that are present at our campus. And a lab proposition like this attracts companies and other organizations to your campus. It's more or less the magnet of your campus. In recent years, there has been an important additional development. Triple-Helix is increasingly becoming quadruple-helix. So at this picture, you can see the ecosystem that we have present at our campus with governments ranging from the province of Limburg to Statistics Netherlands to the Chamber of Commerce, with companies ranging from large insurance companies to banks to consultancies, and also knowledge institutions ranging from hospitals to universities, to middle schools for professional education. But in addition, we are increasingly involving citizens because, especially in the field of data science and AI, but also in other fields, it's important to gain societal acceptance for the developments that you make at your campus directly within your project, because otherwise, as I said it earlier, you will start becoming too tech-driven and you will lose the commitment of your citizens. So in order to prevent that, we have recently started to involve citizens within our projects, for example, by a citizen participation platform, so that they are directly feel involved with what we do at our campus. And of course, as I stated earlier, also the content of what you do on your campus is really important. In recent years, we have seen in the field of data science and technology a shift from the technology toolbox, which used to be the most important, ranging from blockchain to machine learning to deep learning, to currently more the application areas. In our campus, we focus on topics like poverty, education, health, circularity for industry, but also, for example, personal finance. And it's really important that if you work on a Triple-Helix innovation site, that you know what your strength points are, because no one is good at everything, and it's good if you have a clear picture of what you are good at and where you are willing to drive your campus forward. Underneath those themes, of course, are both the toolbox of the technologies, which remain important, and also the ways in which you stimulate collaboration. At our campus, that's, for example, the Tech-Ruption program, which is an innovation program in which we bring all kinds of parties together to collaborate on certain pre-identified topics. But of course, also the labs are an important place where parties collaborate. And we are currently also at the starting point of developing an innovation program for SMEs. Well, how does this all relate to young European universities? First of all, of course, we were founded by one of the young universities in Europe, Maastricht University, together with two other partners. And Maastricht University has done this at several places. They have also done it at Geleen, at Camelot, for a site that revolves on circularity for industry. They've also done it slightly more up north in Venlo, in a site that revolves around Triple-Helix innovation regarding food and health. And also in the south of Limburg, in Maastricht, in a site that revolves around health, a Triple-Helix innovation site around health. Together, we are Limburg's 4 Brightlands campuses. And Maastricht University, of course, didn't do this just because. It's because they saw that Triple-Helix innovation is one of the most important drivers of both economy and knowledge for the upcoming decades. If you look at what young universities should do regarding Triple-Helix innovations, they are the motors of Triple-Helix innovation. So they are the place where many of those ecosystems start and are conceptually designed, more or less. So it's really important that young universities take the step, because they are maybe even more than older universities perfectly positioned to start such ecosystems. And moreover, I would advise that you think about cross-border collaboration, because cross-border collaboration is becoming increasingly important in questions like, for example, energy transition, employability, etc., etc. So if you really want to tackle questions that are relevant to Europe, you have to work across the border. And if you just look for most universities that are at close to the border of a country, if you look around you in a circle of around 100 kilometers, there are more than enough collaboration partners that you should seek out and start collaboration with. And be really connected with both the industries and the government's needs, because they work differently than you do as a university. They are not only scientifically interested, they are interested in the application of the knowledge that you develop. So be able to speak their language and to work with them in order to get real benefits for our society. I would like to finish here. Thank you for your attention. I will be more than happy to answer any questions later in the panel session.
Thank you, Astrid, for sharing your experiences at the Brightlands Smart Services campus. Your campus is indeed, I would say, a living example of a quadruple helix cooperation model. It also very shows clearly from your presentation that fourth element, making a quadruple helix cooperation instead of just a triple helix cooperation with government, universities and business is essential. That fourth pillar, citizens, are an important group of stakeholders to test also innovations you are creating. Some other points, if I may follow up from your presentation, include the importance of restructuring the current economy to connect and attract talent from across Europe, from across the region, to develop smart solutions, but also very importantly to reskill and upskill the existing populations to deal with the transformations currently ongoing. We hereby come to the end of the three presentations, and I really very much thank all our speakers on the European, national and the regional level for their contributions. We now continue with a live panel debate with several other distinguished speakers. Before we start and before I introduce these speakers, I would like to ask the audience watching to pose your questions, your Q&As in the stream's comments so we can pick on those live in this session. I would like to now introduce the panelists for today who will talk to us about the importance of European universities for local and regional development. First of all, Dr. Astrid Boeyen, our previous speaker, as the CEO of the Brightlands Smart Services Campus in Heerlen. Welcome also Astrid live for this panel discussion.
Thank you.
Our second panelist is Mr. Menno Bart, Public Affairs Manager from the Adecco Group, the world's largest HR solutions provider. We also have with us Ms. Sonia Sinak, student from the Nicolaus Copernicus University in Toruń in Poland. Welcome, Sonia.
Good morning.
Then we have Nina Kolakovic from the University of Rijeka in Croatia, the acting head of the international office. Also a warm welcome to you, Nina.
Hello.
And last but not least, we have Dr. Daniela Trani, the managing director of the YUFE Alliance. Thank you to all panelists for being here with us today, and we look forward to discussing some important topics with you regarding the quadruple helix cooperation model. If I may start with Menno Bart from the Adecco Group. Menno, the Adecco Group has been a member of the YUFE Alliance from the very outset, from the beginning. Could you maybe tell us a bit more on why joining YUFE was attractive for the Adecco Group, and what potential you see in the European University Initiative from the business and employer side of you? Thank you.
Absolutely, Jan, and thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. And I'll get to your question, but I'll take a slight little detour if you'll allow me. The Adecco Group just launched its new strategy for the coming 3 years, only a couple of days ago. And part of that new strategy is a new way in which we describe ourselves, who we are. And we now call ourselves a talent advisory and solutions company. And the reason that I'm sharing that with you all today is because it shows the broad range of labor market and skills issues that we feel are within our scope as a Adecco Group. It is our job to help our clients find the talent they need, but it's also our job to help people find a place to use their talent optimally. And so while education in our view is a wonderful goal in and of itself, at the Adecco Group we also believe that education should contribute to any person's or student's employability. I think we all automatically associate vocational learning with employability, and the Adecco Group is, for example, a strong supporter of the European Vocational Skills Week, which took place in November this year. But there is also a clear business interest in ensuring that not only vocational education, but actually all forms of education lead to employable skills. And by the way, as someone who has a bachelor's degree in Russian and a master's degree in European studies focusing on Eastern Europe, I want to make it very clear. That's not to discredit the value of social studies or language studies or any specific study direction. It's more about creating employable skills that a student obtains during their studies. It's already become a cliche to say that the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated a lot of ongoing labor market trends. We've all spoken about automation and digitization, and I think it's well established by now that the technology will destroy some jobs, but it will not destroy work as such. New jobs will emerge, and more importantly, a large number of existing jobs will change drastically. In addition to that, there are changes and evolutions in how we work, remote or increasingly self-employed, or in other ways than maybe traditionally in a hierarchical organization. And that leads to new skills needs. Practical skills, doing things digitally, working with big data, working with new machinery or equipment, etc., but also transversal skills. Thinking outside the box, collaborating in teams, being independent and responsible, being output driven rather than just putting in your hours. And I want you to remember those skills that I just mentioned, because I'll get back to it in a second. And now to come to your question, the reason that we joined YUFE from the start is that already the initial project proposal put a central focus on creating that connection between the education and the labor market. Even starting with academic staff, YUFE aims to put academic staff in touch with the labor market, breaking down the what might sometimes be perceived as the ivory tower of academia, and allowing both worlds of academia and the labor market to benefit from each other. And of course, putting students earlier in touch with the labor market and with employers and employers' needs. And at the heart of this is the YUFE star system. And I would argue each of the 4 stars that exist contribute to a person's employability. So professional star that people can achieve through YUFE, but also language and mobility and civic engagement. They're all relevant to employers, I would say. At the Adecco Group, our specific focus is on that professional star. And when you look at one of the elements that contribute to that professional star is the challenge team. So a group of students gets a specific challenge from let's say, the real world. And they need to collaborate in a multicultural team between universities to solve a problem by thinking creatively in an independent and self-starting way. Now, that sounds an awful lot like what I've just described as the needs that employers are actually looking for. And it also sounds an awful lot like the actual needs that an employer might have. So in summary, we believe that YUFE does hold the key to preparing students for a new reality of work. and we're very excited to contribute to that. And I only want to add to that that a lot has already been achieved in that first year. So when you are asking us what is next, well, for us, it's mainly stay the course and let's make sure that we start create and implementing the solutions that we've all designed together in the past year. So once again, well done to the YUFE team for what has been achieved already.
Thank you, Menno. And the different worlds you're mentioning, academia, business, policy, Astrid, they're kind of coming together also at your own Brightlands campus. So my next question would also be for you. We discussed and you also mentioned the need to reskill, to also go with economic trends, educate the population, strengthen them in their skills training. What could the European University Initiative and YUFE in particular also mean in terms of linking the resources and strengths of these different ecosystems across Europe? And how could YUFE then benefit also your Brightlands campus?
I think that reskilling is a really important topic in the current economy, and that universities, and specifically the young universities that YUFE represents, play a very important role in reskilling. Of course, we currently see some sectors of the economy providing less employment than they used to do, and others strongly growing, especially the field that I am active in, digitization, sees a strong growth. And the companies at our campus, some of them currently struggle in finding qualified personnel, even to the point that this is limiting their growth. So schemes in which people are retrained are really important, I think, in the upcoming years in order to match supply and demand, so to speak, in this field. And of course, young universities could play a really important role. YUFE could play a really important role in devising programs which facilitates that. So, for example, we have just finished an Interreg program under the name of Train for Smart Services, where people who were unemployed were retrained in the field of digitization. And some 70% of them found a job. Well, this program is finished, but similar programs could be really interesting, I think, for YUFE to look into, to organize them yourselves. Specifically, if you could combine that in the program with a work-learning combination. I think it's really important in the current economy that people that are being trained by universities, specifically in retraining programs, directly are enabled to get on-the-job experience. And of course, campuses can play, not only my campus, but there are many Europe-wide, can play a role in this. For example, in the matching of potential students and employers, because I would be a firm advocate of selecting those potentials and directly bringing to contact with the future employers who more or less sponsor them in their retraining program.
And you're a student right now, witnessing all these changes and developments in the labor market. How does YUFE for you contribute to your own personal and civic development? And what are some of your expectations of YUFE in the coming years?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch you. Is it the question for me?
The question is for you, Sonia, indeed. I was saying you're on the other hand, you're a student in this current turbulent times with a changing labor market, new developments. So my question to you was, how does YUFE contribute to your own civic and professional development? And what are some expectations you have from YUFE in the coming years?
Okay, so from my point of view, as students, a higher education should put more emphasis on practical skills. Every student should have an opportunity to confront theoretical knowledge with its practical use. Due to this, students would become more competitive on the labor market, and on the other hand, practical aspects would enrich the learning process. YUFE has much to offer in this area, I suppose. In accordance with the project proposal, YUFE provides the possibility of gaining practical experience, for example, in the help desk that is created under Work Package 6, but also wide volunteer programs. In my opinion, this is the most important part in YUFE that can provide to the students the practical really skills.
Thank you, Sonia, for your contribution. This also leads to my next question for Daniela Trani, Managing Director of the YUFE Alliance. Daniela, YUFE is launching many of these initiatives with a lot of potential impact. How do you balance achieving impact quickly and not being an elitist project? So how do you manage to keep everybody on board in this process?
First of all, good morning, Jan, and good morning to the colleagues, panelists today, and also I would like to thank all those who are following us today. Thanks for your question. I would like, first of all, to redefine our alliance, not as elitist, but it's a small-scale initiative at the moment, because the funding we have been awarded, although a beautiful seed funding, does not allow us to go large scale. Also, what we develop, we want to test, and we want to continue to co-create together with our colleagues, with the students that Sonia represents today, with the external stakeholders, and also with the other European universities alliances and other universities outside. How do we achieve a balance between, like you said, a short-term impact and not being an elite? I think the key for us is the inclusion in this process, like I said, of all the different stakeholder groups, internally in our university communities, but also from the outside. The Brightlands campus that Astrid represents today is one example of one of the stakeholder partners we have included also in the development of our proposal. The municipalities of our universities are also other stakeholders that we discuss initiatives with and with whom we plan also to develop upskilling and reskilling programs for citizens, like those that already take place at the Brightlands campus in Heerlen, and like those that the ADECO group strongly promotes. So the solution, in brief, is to work together with everyone has an interest in higher education and in a stronger possibility for all citizens to continue their lifelong learning process within and outside universities.
Thank you, Daniela. I'd like to hold on to one point for a second. The Director General, Mr. Jaskelainen of the Finnish Ministry of Education and Culture, also mentioned that expectations are high due to the Erasmus Plus funding and also due to the Horizon 2020 funding. My question to you is, do you think these high expectations can actually be achieved with the current funding level? What is your take on this?
No, definitely not. I think that the young universities for the future of Europe have sketched an extremely ambitious plan based on inspiration, on a dream of an entire community made of staff, students, executives, external stakeholders. And the funding we have received has provided the possibility to really trigger a momentum and to start hopefully also inspiring other colleagues, students within our communities to join and work with us. We are very thankful to the European Commission, to the member states that are continue to discuss European Universities Initiative, but definitely a stronger, larger support, both financial as well as to address the regulatory and legal challenges that we are identifying will be needed. So the glass is half full at the end, because we have started, thanks to the support that has been put in place until now, what we consider potentially a breakthrough for not only European higher education, but for the way universities and societies can work together to empower our citizens more. But of course, a conversation is ongoing within Europe, with the European Commission and with the member states, on how we can further work together and on what will be needed. Our results will also provide the evidence that if enabled with the necessary resources, we and the other alliances can deliver the future of European universities.
Thank you, Daniela. So support at all levels is essential to really create an impactful European university. That is clear. Nina, can I turn to you, to Rijeka, for a second? You're a staff member involved in the YUFE Alliance. Also, you have recently witnessed a change in your daily work with, of course, due to COVID-19, many processes moving online or digitalizing. Could you maybe tell us a bit more about how this has affected you and how YUFE also offers new pathways for you as a staff member to redevelop, reskill, continue to develop yourself? Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. So if there is one thing we learned from this year is that nothing is impossible. Until this year, we didn't think it's possible to have online yoga classes, online driving lessons. Everything is now online, and even if it's negative, it's also positive in a way, because you can connect to people all around the world from your room. And it may sound like a paradox, but now you can do a lot more on the internet. So you can visit other places. I've seen on Facebook many virtual tours of Scotland, Iceland. You know, everything is now accessible, and you can do whatever you want. In terms of changing the daily businesses and daily tasks, of course, it's a bit harder because all of our meetings have shifted to a virtual arena, and now we spend most of our days on Zoom, on Microsoft Teams, or any other platform. It is difficult because, you know, face-to-face interaction is what we all long for. And I know that a lot of people like this, there is, of course, some lag, and you can't see the genuine reactions and so on. But mostly, if we're talking about what YUFE can offer us in a way, and thanks to our virtual campus, is the fact that we have mobility without actually moving anywhere. So you don't have to be physically present somewhere, thanks to YUFE and our virtual campus. And it also allows you to devise your own personal study program. So it's tailor-made, it's learner-oriented. So I think that's what's most important. And when it comes to being inclusive and open, I think that also allows us to invite different stakeholders from different regions, different parts of human world. And as Astrid said, no one is good at everything. So we need to have people who have a unique set of skills, knowledge, life experience, and we need to share those ideas among us to develop something truly inspiring and truly successful. And I hope, as Daniela said, we will eventually get there, although it's been a tough year for all of us.
Thank you, Nina. Menal, if I go back to you for a second, you also mentioned, and the commissioner also mentioned, in fact, the importance to prevent inequalities and to deepen talent. Could you maybe tell us a bit more about what you now see as the biggest challenge at the moment in the world of work, and how do you think these European universities can actually together build comprehensive ecosystems to build in the long term more resilient labor markets and economies?
Well, I mean, the biggest challenge at this point, it's a big question, right? And I think we have to separate the short term from the long term here. So in the short term, of course, the biggest challenge is the immediate impact of COVID-19 on the labor market, and just the fact that many economic sectors have experienced unprecedented downturns. I mean, the word unprecedented itself has almost lost meaning in the last year, I would say. So in that sense, the biggest challenge is to make sure that that business is able to start up again as soon as possible. But you're right. We have seen also in the last year very specific vulnerabilities related to some more systemic issues, and those are not short-term, but they may need to be addressed, well, in the not too long future anyway. And that might go a bit beyond just the issue of education. It also goes back to what I just mentioned, changing work patterns and making sure that when we know that a job for life may no longer exist, we have to make sure that workers, and therefore students to begin with, are more resilient and are able to find their way from one job to the next, and that people are better prepared for labor market transitions. And I think the best way to be prepared for a labor market transition is, again, to invest in employability. And employability is not a static picture. It's not a thing that is done at some point. It means continuing to learn and to relearn and to reskill and to upskill. And so, I mean, when you look at the huge ambition that YUFE sets, I would like to add even a little building block on top of that ambition and say, let's make sure that this ambition can also become a reality for people, not only at the beginning of their careers, but actually throughout their careers, and make sure that people will be able to access those professional stars in a way throughout their careers.
Thank you, Menno. Daniela, maybe from your side, would you like to add on this point? So the importance of lifelong learning to build and keep on building as a professional.
I would like to add to what Menno just said. We have, like Nina stressed, had a very difficult year where we had to work fully online with the student staff, with anyone that was in our professional circle, not only for the YUFE colleagues, but also all the other professionals out there. And we had to also face challenges that maybe would have come later on. So we were in a situation where not meeting in person, also some dynamics get even stronger, right? If you disagree on something, if you can meet in person, you can discuss and you drink a cup of tea or coffee, or you have dinner together and you have the time to look at each other in the eyes. You see how the person is reacting. Nina mentioned you don't see the reactions very well behind the screen. So we had to really work in an extreme situation, and still we did it. We delivered, we achieved a lot all together, and we can be really proud of this. This also means that some of the issues that we will have to discuss have come sooner, which is not bad, because we are used in YUFE to have the difficult conversations at an early stage. And I think also for students to be in an environment where there is a crisis that is playing, and where a project, an initiative, a company still needs to find solutions, can be a unique experience. So going back to what Menno said, business will have to restart. And we also know that in the past months, for students, was more difficult everywhere in the world to find internships, for example. So I think this is a situation where companies and universities should not wait to facilitate students even to get an internship in a company that is facing a challenge post-COVID, because they can experience firsthand, first brain and eyes, what it means to find solutions that then will allow the companies to become more resilient, but also the student to become a more resilient individual and professional.
Thank you, Daniela. And of course, where there's crisis, there's also opportunity, and there's a need to rebuild society and come up with innovative solutions. Astrid, you're the CEO of a successful Triple-Helix campus here in Heerlen with us. You also work very close to the labor market, so you know which developments are ongoing. You are also aware of the needs, let's say, of the disciplines involved at your campus. What are some of your ideas to ensure cross-fertilization of the ideas and input you gain at the campus with the YUFE Alliance? How could both benefit from this?
Well, I think that it would be very good to put in position some kind of structure in which YUFE discusses developments with practical sites like Brightlands sites, but also other sites, of course, in Europe, to remain in touch with the developments in the labor market, because things are going at quite a fast pace right now. And I think I fully agree with earlier speakers that it isn't just about the initial training, but about the lifelong development of people. And of course, universities and specifically YUFE takes a role in this. And to do that in a sustainable way, I think it would be very good to put in position some kind of platform where these developments could be discussed and monitored, so that the programs that you put in place for the future will also remain connected with the current developments in the labor market. And if I take my field as an example, you can see that the developments go extremely fast, both in the field of the technologies. A few years ago, we had the blockchain hype. Blockchain is still important, but there are now other technical developments that are becoming equally important, but also in the field of application and also in the field of skills that are required from workers. So that would be my advice.
Thank you, Astrid. Now to maybe zoom in on a bit different point, the citizens' engagement. Sonia, YUFE has included citizens as an important stakeholder group in this quadruple helix model, building, for example, the virtual campus with also a section for citizens and developing several activities such as the YUFE help desks in the cities, etc. Could you maybe tell us a bit more about which possibilities you see for YUFE and your universities to better engage with the local context and with citizens?
YUFE Help Desk is about, it's an opportunity for as well, from one side for the students and the other side from the citizens. Citizens can ask the question and students will work on this to answer this question to the citizens. The idea is to bring them closer, to bring the community and university closer to themselves. Also, we are going to create a volunteer program that students can also help to the community in some kind of areas that help is needed. Due to this, students, international students, as well as local students, can bring closer the European idea and European citizenship to the local community.
Thank you, Sonia. Daniela, turning to you again. The challenges facing different European regions and also represented in YUFE, I assume, are quite different from each other. Could you tell us maybe how YUFE works with the regions to solve challenges, identify challenges, and what also your ambition, your dream is of how the YUFE Alliance can contribute to regional and local challenges in those different regions involved in your alliance?
Well, one step we took also when we developed our proposal was to have conversations with the local authorities, but also with some of the innovation ecosystems to identify topics that are local priorities. And what we do is to pull together the expertise from different universities in the specific area. One way we will do this is, for example, via the challenge teams that Menno mentioned earlier, so that the students are working together with the academics, with experts from different universities to tackle local challenges with Europe-wide expertise. It's not an easy solution what we aim to develop, of course, and that's also why we will be starting up with a selected number of topics. What we expect is, and what we hope is that this kind of developments will also grow bottom up, as it has happened for our own initiative, so that different parties can find each other, municipalities that have maybe complementary experience on specific topics, companies, innovation ecosystem like the Brightlands campus in Heerlen will be facilitated by YUFE. We, or at least the management, is not thinking to resolve the local challenges, but to enable different ecosystems, different stakeholders, academics, to pool resources, knowledge, so that we can deliver that impact that is needed at the local level and not only at European level.
Thank you. Maybe as a final point, before we also open the questions to the audience to propose some questions they have, one returning point is talent attraction, fostering talents. Of course, talent is a difficult concept to grasp. There's different types of talents, and YUFE, as I understand, is also trying to attract different sorts of talented individuals on different levels with different backgrounds. What role does inclusivity play from your perspective also in fostering such an ecosystem?
It's essential. We are actually, what our vision is in this regard is that only with a very diverse team of people, with very different profiles, cultural backgrounds, life experiences, you can come to innovative solutions on all kinds of problems. So without inclusion, there is no true innovation. And I also want to emphasize that in YUFE we believe that there is excellence with inclusion. So inclusion can foster excellence further. If you think of the classical mobility programs, they have had a huge impact at European level. And I think that we have an excellent start with the Erasmus program that is currently existing. With the European Universities Initiative, we aim at making international higher education even more accessible. I would say our dream is to make it structural in all degree programs, so that all talents have the possibility to get enriched by other perspectives, points of view, and cultural, national backgrounds, and they have also the possibility to bring back to their own region, to their own city, new knowledge, new experiences to foster innovation there.
Thank you. Looking at the panel, maybe some of your perspectives on this. So how important are inclusivity and diversity to really foster excellence? Maybe Menno, if I can start with you, from your experiences at the Adecco Group, what is your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, of course, in the space of HR and of the labor market, diversity and inclusion is well, a key aspect, and we are very much aware of this, and we're trying to support our clients as well as in creating and maintaining a diverse workforce. And actually, you used the right word initially, because it's not only about diversity, but it really is about inclusion. And it is about making sure that you don't have only the different people around the table, but that actually everybody has a say and has an opportunity to participate in the process. And that goes both for the academic staff that might be driving the YUFE project itself, but indeed also about the students that then participate in the YUFE university. Do they all have the opportunity to not only enroll, but to actually get the full experience out of the process? Yeah, it's very hard for me to further contribute to this debate, also because I think everything has already been said almost on this. So I'd be very happy to just hear the views of the other participants on the panel.
Thank you, Menno. Maybe as to final closing questions. Astrid, one question for you. brain circulation is becoming ever more important in this interconnected system. How do you see YUFE contributing concretely to brain circulation from your perspective? And should this have only a virtual or also a physical dimension?
Well, I think, of course, in the current era, it's a blessing that we can interact in this virtual way, in which also distances are of no importance whatsoever. Only imagine what kind of organization it would have meant to organize this seminar, this town hall live. However, when we are back to the new normal after we have our COVID vaccines, I really hope to see a hybrid way of living in which we combine live and virtual meetings, meeting the needs of the meeting at hand. Because I think in the end, true innovation is best facilitated in live settings in which you can have a brainstorm near a whiteboard, and that's often where the best ideas start. So I'm looking forward to that new period, which I hope will be there soon when we can do that again. And for YUFE, I think it means that it would be good to develop a vision on how to facilitate brain circulation in a combination of virtual and live meetings. Of course, you are ideally positioned with your large number of universities that are associated with you to promote brain circulation throughout Europe. And I would really encourage you to do as much as you can about that.
Thank you, Astrid. Danielle, you want to respond to this maybe from your perspective?
Well, I have the same thought the last few days as Astrid, because now we are meeting a lot online. Everyone can be everywhere. So even people that could not watch us today if we had met physically, because usually we were not streaming on a regular basis our event, they can decide to follow us, to learn about what we do, what European universities' initiatives are trying to achieve. And that's also how we are more inclusive. So this crisis, for how difficult and ugly it has been, and we all wish it had not happened, has also pushed inclusion in higher education, in culture. And the question is, like Astrid said, what will happen when the pandemic is over? We don't know when it will be. But I also hope that we will continue with blended formats, because on the one hand, like other speakers have said earlier, it is essential to meet in person. We know how important it is to bond, to create and foster partnerships, but it is also extremely important to create a new kind of level playing field where everyone has really access, regardless of their abilities, to travel physically, to opportunities to learn, to bond, and to contribute to something that matters to them. So not only for the students that can decide to come to Maastricht or go to Rijeka and to Rouen, but also to those students or lifelong learners whose private circumstances do not allow them to travel easily. They should still have access to the international exchange, to international mobility, and also to work, for example, in challenge teams that will probably be meeting in a blended format. Regarding your question on how we can help brain circulation, I think European universities are the example of a transformative process that aims at creating a level in Europe that allows innovators, academics, experts everywhere to be able to exchange, to have attractive opportunities, not only in other countries, but also in their own. So to give you an example, we work with partners in Southern Europe, in Northern Europe, as well as in the Western Balkans and Eastern Europe. And if we create stronger educational offer in YUFE, we do it for all the students. If we create better training opportunities, we do it for all the staff. And this means that everywhere, the workforce will achieve also the same level of competences, of network, that will strengthen also their local context further. So I think this is potentially really a blueprint of how brain circulation can be really achieved in Europe.
Thank you. It's a very nice building block also for my closing question, I would say, for this panel discussion. Nina, you're a staff member at Rijeka. Participating in YUFE is opening up a new world of opportunities. To join this quadruple helix ecosystem, to further develop yourself. I think many of our viewers will be very eager to hear from you. What are some of your hopes and aspirations? What do you want to get out of YUFE? What does it add for you to existing programs like Erasmus Plus or other existing mobility initiatives? Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. So to start with, I would say that many people and many of my colleagues think that their education ends when they graduate, which is of course false. You only start learning when you go out in the real world and experience something yourself. So what YUFE offers us is an opportunity to learn more and to also build on your knowledge. And as Sonia said, you can utilize your theoretical knowledge and apply them in real life. So again, practical skills are very important because you can't actually learn something without trying it yourself. Also, when it comes to the relationship between the four stakeholders, I think it's important, as the Madam Commissioner said at the very beginning, is to invite different stakeholders and to open our institutions to everyone. I know here from the perspective of someone who lives in Rijeka, we have a very active and influential Italian community, and most of them are highly proficient in Italian. So I think that they would also like to participate in YUFE, but maybe the problem is that most of our courses and activities are now only in English. And at one of the YUFE Academy lectures, we were discussing the possibility of introducing other languages. So I see Daniela nodding, she agrees. So in a way, we can create a mini European Union in which we have the several official languages. I know that's probably hard to achieve because we have different laws, different regulations, and it would be probably very, very hard to do this in practice, but maybe we can try, and that way we can include more people, and what is important, we can include more citizens, older generations. And I can't tell you how happy I am to see a lot of older people using Zoom, Teams, and everything modern. That was, I think, very, very unusual to them up until this year. And now they're highly proficient in it, I can say, because I've seen a lot of people that I usually wouldn't see on Zoom. So again, another benefit of this very, very negative global pandemic. But I guess you need to have something negative in order to have something positive. So you need to have some kind of incentive to do something. And to wrap up, if you allow me just a few minutes, I think it's been, again, a rough year for all of us. The very first thing we experienced at YUFE, it was a cyber attack, then the global pandemic. We had to postpone everything or cancel everything. And as Professor Paul stated yesterday, it was a real stress test, and I think we passed it with flying colors. And the best is yet to come. We only need to work more. We are still getting to know each other. We are learning how everything functions. And of course, it's still a pilot project, but eventually it will get better and we will achieve all our goals.
Thank you, Nina. Daniela, we'll achieve all our goals. How do you see this?
I have no doubts that Nina is right. We just need to be persistent, and we have dedicated passionate students, staff, external stakeholders. So I think that the future is bright, not only for YUFE, but also for other European universities. And if I can comment on Nina's remark on multilingualism, we had indeed a reflection because we want to be inclusive. We are aiming to build the most inclusive, open European universities where inclusion and excellence thrive together. So one could say, well, you don't have subtitles today, you don't have translation, and it's all true. And it's not that we have not thought of it, but it's not so trivial to put in practice immediately. It has costs, but I also want to say that we are discussing this internally, and we are going to look into a steps plan to then also make our lectures, events, really more accessible. I have my parents watching today from the south of Italy. They do not speak English, so I think they have not really gotten much. I will have to give them a debriefing next weekend. They will probably be watching, and for them would be great if they could really understand and learn. They are highly educated, but they don't speak another language. So they are probably like the Italian community that is in Rijeka, that would be eager to continue getting new knowledge, to connect with others, and to offer their expertise to others. So I would like to thank Nina for bringing that up, because I think that is one of the points where I hope we can work together, not only YUFE, but also with the European Commission, with the other alliances, with other higher institutions in Europe, because it is also key that the solutions we build are not designed and deployed only within our alliance, but as broadly as possible.
That's a beautiful closure, I would say. YUFE as the model for accessible and impactful European higher education. Thank you, Daniela, and also a big and a warm thank you to all the panelists for joining us here today for this lively and very interesting debate. So thank you again. Before we wrap up, I would like to point out two things. Daniela, could you maybe walk us through a little bit on some of the concrete plans you have for the coming year before the second town hall event next year in terms of the quadruple helix cooperation? So what is in stock? What are you hoping to launch in the coming year?
Well, there are two main activities that are being developed. They are quite transversal, I would say, and they were mentioned in the words of some of the speakers. The first is the YUFE challenge teams. So identify topics that are not only brought to us by individuals, but also by companies, by innovation ecosystems in our regions, and why not in other regions in Europe, because YUFE should not only be for our regions, is with our regions, but is for all countries and all regions in Europe and beyond. And these challenge teams, we are aiming to launch a call for ideas in the spring 2021, so that we can identify the suitable challenges where YUFE challenge teams can work on, starting from end of the spring, beginning of the summer with our students. And the second one is the development of a YUFE work and learn program that will build also on the experience at some of our partner universities, because we are not here to reinvent the wheel, but to build on the good practices that are already in place at our local university, partner universities, and in our communities. And that is another activity that we really aim and hope to develop together with Astrid, Menno, all the other colleagues, students, so that we can together build a new kind of university where academic knowledge go hand in hand with the acquisition, the development of those skills that Menno so clearly highlighted earlier.
These all sound like very exciting initiatives, and I think many of our viewers today must be very excited and eager to also maybe participate in YUFE. Daniela, if I'm a citizen, let's say, in North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany, how could I get involved with YUFE? What's the way to go about it?
Well, that's something that we are defining further. And we will do that together with the local governments. Of course, the volunteering programs that we are designing are not only aimed at having students and staff participating in it, but also citizens, also as mentors. So for the YUFE Star system that Menno mentioned earlier, the volunteering activities will also be organized in such a way that the citizens, the professionals with whom the students get in touch will function as life mentors, if you wish. We don't have yet a procedure to get involved, but I would like to invite the audience to stay tuned, to follow us, so that hopefully soon they can hear more from us on how to actively participate. And always on our website there are the contacts of institutional coordinators who are the wonderful key enablers of our work, and that I would like to warmly thank today for everything they have done in the past 2 years. And they will also be able to provide some answers, but the main developments are communicated on the YUFE website as they are finalized.
Thank you, Daniela. So stay tuned to everybody out here watching. We've looked back yesterday and today to YUFE's achievements, celebrate these achievements, and also looked forward to some of the main actions for the coming year. Follow YUFE on the website, on the social media, stay involved. And maybe also before we close, I would also like to remind you that later today at 6 p.m. there's an open accessible session of the YUFE Student Forum, so the student body of the YUFE Alliance, in which they will also detail some of their plans and ambitions for the coming year. This session is open for everybody, so both students and non-students from YUFE and from outside of YUFE. So you're also very much welcome to join that session. Before we close, Daniela, maybe some closing remarks from your side to everybody, the audience and your team.
Well, I would like to thank the organizing team, the management office, Lieke Bos, Magdalena Kool, the YUFE Secretariat, all the institutional coordinators that are many, so I cannot mention them one by one, the task force leaders, the work package leaders that have made possible to celebrate the end of the first year of our pilot project with many successes. And I would like to invite all of us to also thank our student community because they have been the real engine of our alliance. And of course, the YUFE Strategy Board for their continuous support and their commitment towards our alliance.
Thank you. So from the birthplace of the European Union in Maastricht, we send you our warm regards, wish you best wishes for your safety and good health in the coming period, and look forward to speak to you again in the future for more YUFE news and developments. A big thank you to everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.